All right, flowers to UCLA and Cori Close. I have been killing UCLA and Cori Close all season, just niggling a little bit and saying, will that shooting show up and will they be able to handle LSU? And just those little seeds of doubt. And back to sports needs to eat some humble pie in this video, which I will do. Sit back, Pam and eggs, and UCLA Vince. Yes, you'll enjoy this one. So yes, the main parts of this video, throwing flowers at UCLA, analyzing that game, as well as looking at Duke, South Carolina. Dawn Staley landed the plane. It wasn't pretty, but she got it down. I've got a little bit of poison for Kara Lawson. I don't know. It just might be me, but I think if you're down by 2 points, you might want to have your leading scorer on the court with 30 seconds left. It might be a good idea, but we'll get into that later as well. We'll break down the Yukon USC game in addition to Texas TCU. Before we start, as always, if you enjoy the content, then please give the video a like as it really helps and subscribe to the channel. All right, so let's get into this. Now, to be clear, I have always liked Cori Close. I like the way she handles the media. She talks about players and things like that. I did not like, after they lost to USC, how she berated her team. I thought it was sort of coach frustrated after a loss, just going after her team. But if you win and you get it done, then you're a genius motivator like Gino Auriemma. If you lose, then you're the master of panic, Stan Van Gundy, and that's sort of the reputation I think most would have with Cori Close. When you watch her on the sideline, she seems to be hyper-reacting and out of control, much like Stan Van Gundy. But I don't go to her trainings. I don't know how well her practices are run and what players feel about her. So yeah, it's definitely unfair. Some of the abuse she caught from me, but why she gets flowers is because in this game, at the end of the first quarter, as you would be aware, Lauren Betts has 2 fouls sent to the bench, and UCLA is down 9-13. And I don't know if you, like me, thought that, okay, this is where LSU is going to put the knife to UCLA. They'll get a nice little lead, about 10 to 12 points, and then you'll just see slowly UCLA panic, force things, and when Betts is on the floor, the ball into Betts on the court. And what do you know? Lo and behold, UCLA is the more calm and collected team in the second quarter. In the post-game press conference, Kim Mulkey said as much. We lost that game in the second quarter. She is 100% right.
The game was lost in the second quarter. That's where the game was lost. We didn't capitalize on Betts being off the floor.
With Betts off the court, UCLA outscored LSU 22-12. And if you look at how they played, UCLA at halftime only had 5 turnovers to LSU's 9 turnovers. And UCLA just got better looks at the basket. Oftentimes with Betts in the game, it was almost a bonus without her in there because they tend to get tunnel vision. We have to force the ball into Lauren, and they didn't do that. They just ran through their offense, got good looks for Gardner, who hit the 3-point shots. On the other side, Flau'jae Johnson was taking ill-advised shots. Williams was forcing passes, and they just looked out of sync on offense, turning over the ball and taking bad shots. So UCLA was taking advantage in transition as well. So one, full credit to Cori Close. Your team did not panic. I think oftentimes the team is a reflection of the coach. And of the 2 teams, it was obvious that UCLA played calmer and more ready in that second quarter versus Mulkey's team wasn't able to take the game, which was a surprise to me, by the way. Hence why you're getting so many flowers, Cori Close. The other thing I have to give Close credit on is she's handled Lauren Betts well. I don't agree with her crying at the press conference and sort of turning it into an issue. I think it would have been better just to keep that off the radar, but it's clear that Lauren Betts did the article with ESPN and is pretty outspoken that she struggles with mental health issues. And I think she took steps that year to handle that well, having assistant coaches talk to her, being supportive, and the work that they've done with her is great. It not only You can see that Lauren Betts is happier overall, that she can do the article with ESPN. The other thing that I thought was interesting was when she's on the bench, that's where you expect a player. You could imagine last year she would be on tears and oh my God, I'm losing this game. I'm out of it. We can't win, and already lost the game. But to be able to, at one point they cut to her and she was like having a joke with somebody on the bench, and I think that's a great sign for Lauren Betts that she's relaxed and playing her best game. The third thing is the win in the transfer portal. So getting Barker and getting Gardner, it obviously paid off in this game because when Betts was in foul trouble, she had backup players. I think Duglic only got like 22 minutes. So Barker's athleticism allowed her to match up on Morrow, which that's where they got killed last year. I thought as well, it was smart early on in the game when Close had Morrow being guarded by Betts. It was challenging Morrow to hit shots. And to Morrow's credit, she did that. So, yeah, I thought she did matchups. I like the way she matched up. And those portal signings, which I sort of questioned a bit, more for the players. Like, I just think Gardner's been wasted on the bench a little bit. I think she's a talented player that should be getting more minutes. But there's only so much space. Same thing with Barker. But to her credit, she's gotten those players to buy in. They're happy with it, and in the big game, they were able to deliver, like to have Gardner come off and hit those 3-pointers. I think she went 3 for 4. I need to look at the stats again, but that was huge for UCLA, and the reason they won that game. Now, coming down at the end of the game, UCLA looked shaky. So with, I believe it was like 2:30 left, or was it 3:30? Yeah, it was like 3:23. It was a one-possession game. LSU's down 3 points. Flau'jae Johnson's just made a layup, and you're like, okay, this is game on. Will UCLA choke like they did the year before? And to their credit, they regathered, and closing to get to a Final Four is hard. So I'm not surprised that LSU was able to make a push. And I guess I'll transition into LSU. First, let's start with the officiating. The officiating did not cost LSU this game. It was funny, even before the game started, I got somebody saying, hate to say this, but the officials are going to cost us this game. Like the fix is in one way or another. And that's, no, the ball was clearly kicked out of bounds. That's probably the main point LSU fans will pick to, is I think it went off Rice's leg, obviously, and Mulkey saw it and they couldn't review it because it was at 2 minutes 30 seconds. It was a big play. The other one I think LSU fans would complain about would be when Williams went in for a layup and they called a charge on her versus it should have been called a block. So it would have been, I think it was her second foul she picked up. So she had to go to the bench, and it would have been 2 points plus free throws to come versus her drawing her second and going off the court. And those are legitimate complaints, but the first foul on Betts, in my opinion, was super soft. I didn't think that first foul called on Betts was really a foul. And so you had Lauren Betts off the entirety of the second quarter. You've got no reason to complain. The loss is on LSU and not taking advantage of Lauren Betts being in foul trouble. You're going to get calls both ways. So, I don't think the officials changed the outcome of that game. I thought LSU did a good job of staying in that game. I think Kim Mulkey is a really good in-game manager, has a good feel to call timeouts, and she has that Bill Belichick way of, even if the team looks terrible early on, she can manipulate it to keep her team in the game most of the time. And if you look at the stats here, so UCLA shot 40%, 41% from three. So I'm surprised the game was a 3-point game with basically 2 minutes or 3 minutes 23 left, and it's a 3-point game despite UCLA shooting 40% from three. I would have thought, if you would have told me before the game UCLA was going to shoot 40% from three, then I would have thought UCLA would have won by 10 or 15 potentially. Especially considering that turnovers were equal at 15 apiece, and that UCLA actually had more points off turnovers with 16 versus LSU that only got 11. That's a big number, because I thought LSU would put pressure on the point guards, get Arnicello to turn over the ball, and that's where they'd get Flaugier going. And that's sort of what happened a little bit in the second half, because they only had 5 turnovers in the first half, as I mentioned before, but 10 in the second half. But yeah, to their credit, UCLA stayed strong till the end. The other one, I guess, with talking about point guards, I would say that's the big hole with Kim Mulkey, is she never figured out her point guard situation. Was it Poa that she wanted? Was it Day Wilson? And then at the end of the game, she had Gilbert in there. And I know Lobo was taking shots or saying Gilbert shouldn't be taking those shots, but LSU was desperate for offense. If you're putting Gilbert in there, you're wanting her to make something happen on offense, and she's a hit or miss player. You can't argue about her taking that shot, but then she wins that one. The end of the game, I think it was Tennessee, where she flipped up the layup and celebrated her on that. That's what you get with Gilbert. It's interesting with the whole recruiting of Aaliyah Chavez and Mulkey not being willing to pay the $1 million to get the 4 other recruits. You could look at that and say, Kim, you haven't been able to solve your point guard issue for the last 2 years, and it's probably cost you Final Four appearances the last 2 years, because you used Haley Van Lith that didn't fit your system the year before, and now this year that was the big glaring weakness on this team that probably cost you a trip or definitely hurt your chance. Because inside, and Mulkey said this in the postgame, they did a good job on Betts. They held up on the inside. Samaya Smith had a really good game at holding Lauren Betts in check. So that's not on their bigs, because their bigs did a good job. Like, they held up on the rebounding count, 38 for UCLA versus 43 for LSU, which, I mean, LSU is a good rebounding team, and that, especially considering that Morrow was off a lot of the fourth quarter, or at the end of the third quarter. I can't remember when she took the elbow, but she was off for a while, and they held up well. And then Betts she was efficient. She went for 17 on 7 of 14 shooting, but that's what Lauren Betts is going to do. But yeah, I thought Smith played well. She had 4 points, but she hit those mid-range jumpers and did her job of keeping Betts under control. Now, lastly, if I was an LSU fan, I'd feel proud of my team. It's one of those losses where they showed up, they didn't play well, like they didn't make shots that they needed to make, but I thought they played tough and fought back to get into the game and gave themselves a chance to win it. Morrow is just a beast. Like, you gotta love her. She took the shot to the nose. It just looked painful. It was bloody. She said in the press conference that she didn't break it. They reported on the TV that she broke it, but she said in the press conference, no, that's not true. But yeah, if you're an LSU fan, I think you'd be happy about the way they played, the way they conducted themselves in the post game. As well, after the game, the handshake was cordial, which is good. I mean, I'm a YouTuber. A bit of beef would have been good for me and my channel if Cori Close would have shook her finger at Mulkey or vice versa. But I actually think it was genuinely good, that it was about the game, and it was a good game, well played by both teams. Now let's move on to the second game, Duke versus South Carolina. So this was a really, really good game, I thought. Like, it just went back and forth. I thought it went pretty much like I thought it would go. Like, I thought they were two teams that were mirrors of each other. And I actually picked South Carolina to win and cover, so I guess I got that wrong. But what I thought was that Duke's inexperience would cost them, which essentially happened. They I don't know if it was the moment or just initially they had a slow start, but they've had a few slow starts in their games, and South Carolina got on them, and then they clawed back because they have a really good defense. It doesn't surprise me that they played so well, Duke, and they clawed back in it. And at the start of the third quarter, they came out of the third quarter, and they controlled that third quarter, and you're like, okay, it's game on. And as Kara Lawson said, it was going to be a possession-by-possession game coming down the fourth quarter. I thought South Carolina did a good job of getting Tahina Pau looks off picks and getting to the elbow for her little jumper, and really helped settle them and get their offense back going. And it was the game again was going to be a line ball call, which makes the ending all that more confounding to me. And I just thought Lawson did not have a great last minute. So bad luck for them. They lose the ball when the ball bounces off Fournier's hand, and then it's Carolina's inbound. And I don't have visuals of this, but I was surprised when they went back out and she had Fournier on the court versus putting Jaden Donovan on. I would have had Jaden Donovan out there for defensive purposes if it was me, but it's hard to argue with that because Duke got the charge call and got the possession straight back straight away. Duke takes a timeout, 29 seconds left. Lawson draws up a play. They hit the court, and Fournier is not on the court. I could not believe it. And Fournier was their leading scorer the whole game. So she had 18 points thus far in the game, and she wasn't in there. She's on the bench. You're like, oh my God, what are you doing? Thankfully, the reporter in the post game was like, why wasn't Fournier out on the court? And she was like, coach's decision.
Yeah, Kara, the timeout with 29 seconds left, what did you tell the team? What were you looking for? And also, why was Toby not out on the floor for that possession?
Just a coach's decision. Went with the ball in Ashland's hands. She'd been making plays for us in that fourth quarter out of the ball screen, and she tried to make a play and just missed it.
To the right.
Kara,
I believe in Ashlyn Jackson and wanted her to take the shot. And I'm like, fine, that's great. You believe in Jackson, have her take the shot. But Fournier Fournier was killing them in the pick and roll. Like all of their points in the fourth quarter were coming off Fournier's pick and roll. Like they were giving good looks every time. The announcer even said it during the thing, like, pick and roll is just putting South Carolina in a mess. So they did that at the 4:53 a pick and roll, 3:21 a pick and roll, all of those with Fournier, and 1:38 a pick and roll. And then 29 seconds left, and you're not going to have her in there, which was a perfect time to run it. And then South Carolina would have been so concerned potentially by the pick and roll, you might have gotten an open three-pointer potentially, because that would have put them in all sorts. I just couldn't believe that option wasn't on the court, and that was just a big miss by Lawson. She must regret it. I wish she would. The coaches can't admit when they're wrong. Much like when I said Staley should have had full Wiley in that game. Well, I think this is even more egregious than that. And then, of course, they don't get a good look. And then it's South Carolina's ball. And then even confounding than that, they have a timeout. And then on the inbound, the team thinks it's a free throw. So they're lined up at the free throw line and give basically South Carolina a free inbound. They foul them straight away. So you would say, oh, not a big deal. But that's your chance to cause a 5-second call, cause a turnover, anything like that. And you just took away that opportunity because your team wasn't aware that, no, they're not in the bonus. We have one more shot to get a steal. And if they get the ball, then obviously you foul them straight away. But those were two big mistakes, I thought, on Lawson, and it wasn't real great. But, I mean, it's hard in the heat of the moment. I commend her for getting her team there. I think she's done a good job at Duke. But, yeah, I didn't think her in-game management at the end, I think those are clear questions that should be asked. Why Fournier wasn't in there, and coach's decision, you can say that, but I think it was a bad answer considering how much they were crushing them or putting South Carolina in all sorts on the pick and roll. Now, lastly, Dawn Staley, you get flowers. This was not the best South Carolina team. It wasn't obviously as good as last year's team, but you got them to the Final Four. I think you should take a bow. I think the team was really hurt quite badly, obviously, when they lost Ashlyn Watkins. And to get them there, and their offense isn't clicking right now, but she somehow, some way, fought them through the tournament. It wasn't pretty, but she got the job done. Well done to you, Dawn Staley. It's a good coaching job I think you've done with this team. Now let's take a look at the games to come. So first, TCU, Texas. Texas is minus 7.5. So obviously Texas is favored, and that's not a surprise. I think, but I don't think this is a clear-cut game as well because their styles. I could see it going one of two ways. Texas really, with their strong defense, puts TCU in all sorts, much like South Carolina did, blows up their dribble handoffs and their pick and rolls and are just too athletic, and TCU struggles and lots of turnovers, and they get on top of them. But the other scenario is TCU is better prepared. The facing of South Carolina has helped prepare them for this game. They don't turn over the ball. They get good looks in the pick and roll, and they win the three-point battle and put Texas in all sorts. So I could really see this going either way. I think it's more likely to go Texas' way. I'll be curious to see who they put on Madison Booker to try to slow her down. I don't think that's the greatest matchup for TCU. Yeah, so for what it's worth, I'm going Texas. I think Texas is going to be too athletic and overwhelm them. But again, I can see a road where TCU could get the victory. Hopefully it's a well-played game and it turns into another good fourth quarter game. That's really what I'm hoping for. I want to see a really good game. And I think TCU is playing with house money now. Haley Van Lith making it to the Elite Eight game, like I said, and Cori Close making it to a Final Four. Both of those were my two legacy questions, and they have both smashed it, obviously. Now, that leads me into the next game, Yukon USC. So looking at this, Yukon is minus 13.5. That seems about right. I mean, USC still has talent, obviously, but the loss of Juju Watkins, it's just tough for them because she was so much of their offense, and who are they going to go to? Kennedy Smith played well in the last game, but yeah, Yukon has so many options for scoring. I think Yukon will handle them and get on top, and I think it's going to be difficult for USC if Yukon goes on a run. AZ Fudd or Sarah Strong goes along with Beckers, then I think, yeah, USC is going to have trouble. If you're a USC fan, you'll say, hey, we took out Yukon at Yukon. Well, it wasn't technically at Yukon, the place where the Sun play. But yeah, I still think that doesn't matter because it was such a different game, obviously, because Juju Watkins isn't going to be there. So yeah, I would go with Yukon to cover, but 13.5 is a big spread. Really curious to see how Sarah Strong goes. The other thing, much like with Oklahoma, I think the one to look out for, USC did a good job of limiting turnovers versus Kansas State. I'm curious if they're able to do that with Yukon. Yukon really got into Oklahoma with Ashlyn Shade, KK, Arnold, and all the others. They're able to rotate their guards, where USC's now a little bit limited in their guards because it's really Heckles, Samuels, Kennedy Smith, and obviously Talia Van Oelhoffen. Now, something I didn't mention the other night, Talia Van Oelhoffen only got 18 minutes versus Kansas State. So, and Heckel got 24 minutes, which is interesting. I wonder how she's feeling about that transfer to USC. As I thought she would have gotten more time with Juju Watkins being out. But, yeah, Lindsay, I guess Lindsay doesn't have anything to lose with, if she doesn't think she gives her the best chance of winning, she's a graduate senior, so it's not like you're going to lose her. She's going to be gone anyway, so that gives her more leeway to play the best player she thinks she has. Oh, last thing I'll be looking for in this game is Aubrey Griffin, who didn't play in the previous game. Have they been holding her for the USC game? I thought that was their ace card to play against Juju Watkins, like to get another big body out there on Juju. But I don't know. I'm curious to see now if they just want to keep her and try to hold her for the Final Four. I'm not sure. I don't know what the status of her knee is, and it'll be interesting to see. All right, that's it for me. So as always, your poison in comments. Was I too hard on Lawson? Did I give Cori Close enough praise? It's all over to you now. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great night. I'll do a recap after the next game. Won't be a live stream, but it'll be a recap anyway. All right, thank you. Goodbye.